Saturday is the day the U.S. relinquishes control of some of the Internet's core systems. Congress has so far failed to delay the transfer of domain name control apparatus from the U.S. government to a nonprofit oversight organization. Opponents believe the move threatens online freedom of expression and enterprise. Supporters say it will make the Internet more international. Let's talk about it now with Senator Sen Coons, Democrat from Delaware. He joins us tonight from Wilmington. Senator, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Brett.
Senator, I want to just update our viewers. A lot of people don't follow this closely. Some people are just getting it. This organization is called ICANN. It stands for Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, ICANN for short. It's a private nonprofit entity based in Los Angeles. It coordinates each computer's unique identifier, or domain name, across the entire Internet. This company basically tracks millions of websites worldwide. In March 2014, the Department of Commerce announced its intention to transfer authority of the domain name registration to this group, ICANN. It's, as I said, scheduled to happen Saturday. The purpose of the transfer is to privatize and internationalize authority over domain names, and critics of this transfer believe it gives too much control away to authoritarian governments like China, Iran, and Russia. One of the biggest critics, Senator Ted Cruz from Texas.
The country faces a threat to the Internet as we know it. If Congress fails to act, the Obama administration intends to give away control of the Internet to an international body akin to the United Nations. I rise today to discuss the significant irreparable damage this proposed Internet giveaway could wreak not only on our nation, but on free speech across the world.
Senator Coons, why is Senator Cruz wrong?
Well, Senator Cruz is almost exactly wrong on this because he described ICANN as an international organization like the UN. And it's striking to me, it's almost ironic that Senator Cruz, who is so often a champion of the private sector and of individual initiative and individual liberty instead of federal government control, is in this case arguing for the retention of a federal government role rather than privatization. Senator Cruz chairs a subcommittee of judiciary where I'm the ranking Democrat. We sat through a 2.5-hour hearing 2 weeks ago where 7 different witnesses thoroughly examined this issue in detail. And I'm more convinced than ever now that the American private sector, the companies that have helped to build and strengthen the Internet, who have advocated for this transition, are right. And that what Senator Cruz is saying is wrong, that the transition to ICANN doesn't strengthen the role of Russia and China and Iran in any central function of the Internet. In fact, making this transition to a private entity is the best way to prevent Russia and others from being successful in their argument that it should instead be transitioned to the UN.
Yeah, Senator, why now? Why do it? I mean, what's the upside now?
Right. Great question, Brett. Back to 1998, the international community has been pressing the United States to make a transition away from having the U.S. Department of Commerce effectively run the phone book of the Internet. And every 2 to 4 years, we've said, yes, yes, we'll do that eventually. Yes, there will be a transition eventually. And the world community has gotten, frankly, skeptical that we're ever going to do it. So we've developed a reputation with critics like Russia and China that we will never really allow a transition from the NTIA, a U.S. government entity within the Department of Commerce, to a nonprofit, privatized international body. And so they have begun to suggest an alternative path wherein a UN body called the ITU would have their own separate sort of phone book of the Internet.
Yeah.
It's time for us to relinquish this very minor clerical role so that we retain our international credibility and the UN doesn't step into this role.
You know what critics say beyond Senator Cruz, that this is the camel's nose under the tent, and
yes,
that it starts here and then it evolves, and then the international organization really can't keep up, and it's in somebody else's hands, some other government's hands, essentially. We don't have a say as much as we do now. This is Senator Grassley talking about the organization's transparency.
In ICANN, we see an organization that was blasted just this past July by an independent review panel for its inability to carry out basic duties of self-governance. The review panel found that ICANN Board Governance Committee has, quote, failed several transparency obligations.
I guess there's just concern that it's ready to go, Senator.
Well, I respect Senator Grassley and his concerns. The entire hearing examined that specific issue in great detail. There have been revisions made, both to the transition and to the governance structure of ICANN, to address the concerns that were raised now more than a year ago. And I've been persuaded that the voices of the American private sector, from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce to Cisco and Dell to Google, Intel, and Microsoft, are in unison arguing in favor of this privatization.
All right,
if we were to delay it any further, I frankly thought we'd lose our credibility.